We continue now at the top of Daf Ayin Dalet Amud Aleph from Meseches Kiddushin. This is Kiddushin Daf 74a. And the previous Amud, the Gemara said that if a seller is still holding the item, so then he's believed to say that I sold it to this particular buyer and not that particular buyer. But if he's no longer holding the item, if the two buyers are arguing over the item, so then he's not believed. And so the Gemara asks, V'nichzi zuzeh miman nakad, why don't we just see who he took the money from? Rashi explains, V'nichzi zuzeh miman nakad, kasal gadaytach, right now we think, the Gemara thinks, shalokiv mos ela me'achad mehem, that the seller took money only from one of the two buyers. So havadai midcher dochir zuzeh d'man kabel, certainly he remembers who he took the money from, so he should certainly be believed. Even after the item leaves his possession, he should be believed to say who he sold it to. And the Gemara says, lo no tzricha, it's necessary, the case is as follows. The nakad mitarvayu, he actually took money from both of them. He says, one of them, I took the money willingly, but one of them kind of forced the money into my hand. We don't know which one was willingly, which one was not, and therefore, in such a situation, again, he's only believed if he's still holding on to the item, otherwise he is not believed. And the Gemara continues, Nemon dayon lomar, a judge is believed to say, I made that this one is innocent, and this is the one that is obligated. And when is this true again? Dinim omdim lefanov. That's if the litigants are still standing in front of him. Avol ein balei dinim omdim lefanov. But if the litigants are not standing in front of him, eino nemon, so he is not believed. But the Gemara asks, v'nichzi zechusa man naked. Why don't we just see who's holding the document that says that he won the court case? Rashi says, v'nichzi zechusa man nakat biyad ezu mehem psak din shal zechus. Who has the psak din that he won the court case? Why don't we just look to that? And the Gemara says to that, lo no tzricha. It's necessary to kriya zechusayu, that those are torn, therefore we can't rely on that. And the Gemara says, V'nahader v'nadaininu, so why don't we just have the case again, judge the case again? And the Gemara says, B'shuda dedaini, this was a case that's at the discretion of the judges, so it's not a case that you're really able to judge again. Rashi explains, V'nahader v'nadaininu, lamali kuli hai lameimar, eino neman, why do we say he's not believed? Ma lanu v'lemunasu nahader hu atzmo, o acher v'yadunim, lefnei tanusum, let's just do the court case again, then we'll be able to know. And the Gemara says, B'shuda dedaini, the Gemara says, we're talking about shuda dedaini, meaning to say, B'din she'eno tali b'tam, sometimes you have court cases that really are not dependent on strict logical reasoning, el hakol b'fiv shel dayan, it's all based on the estimation of what the judge determines, and when you have such a case, so it will not help in order to redo the case. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Nachman says, Shlosha ne'emonin ala bechor, there are three individuals who are believed to testify regarding someone that the child is a firstborn. Eluhen, and they are as follows, Chaya, the midwife, can testify, Aviv v'imo, and his father and his mother. And the Gemara explains, Chaya la'alter, when it comes to the midwife, it has to be immediately after the birth, that's when she's believed. Imo kol shiva, the mother is believed for the first 7 days, that's before the bris milah, the child is still under the care of the mother, and then Aviv liolam, his father is then believed forever. His father is the one that is able to state and declare that this is my firstborn. Kedetanya, as we learned in a brisa, Yakir yakirenu le'acherim, says Yakir means to say that this is the father is able, he has the right to tell others, to declare to others. Mikan Amar Rabbi Yehuda, from here Rabbi Yehuda says, Neman Adam Lomar Zebni Bechor, that a person is believed to say, this is my son, that's the firstborn. Uchashem shenemar Lomar Zebni Bechor, just like he's believed to say, this is my son, that's the firstborn. Kach Neman Lomar Zeb Ben Grusha V'zen Ben Chalutza, so too he's believed to say, this is a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, he's the son of a divorcee or the son of a Chalutza. The Chachamim Omer Meino Neman, but the Chachamim say he is not believed. And Rashi explains, Kol Shiva, for the first 7 days, Shadayin ein Aviv Makir, but at that point in time the father still doesn't recognize the child. Shelo Yotza Mitachas Yidei Imo Likanis Labris, he hasn't left his mother to have a bris milah. Mikan Va'elach, but from then on, Mutal Al Aviv Lakiru, it's upon the father, he's the one that should recognize who he is, K'dechsiv Yakir, like it says in the Pasuk, Yakir. The Chachamim Omer Me'eno Neman, and the Chachamim say he's not believed, and Rashi says that Ben Grusha V'chalutza Hu Depligi, the Chachamim are arguing on Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, and saying that he's not believed regarding saying that this son of mine is a Ben Grusha or Ben Chalutza. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Abashal hayakori l'shetuke beduke. Abashal would call a shetuke a beduke. And the Gemara says, my beduke, what does it mean, beduke? The Gemara says, Ilema shebodkines imo vomeres l'kasher nevalti ne'emenes. If you're going to say it means that we ask the mother, and if the mother says she had relations with someone who's kosher, then she's believed. In other words, Abashal is saying, then when it comes to this child who's a shtuki, we don't know who his father is, so we trust the mother. So the Gemara says, Kaman, who would that follow? Rebbe Gamliel. That would follow the opinion of Rebbe Gamliel. But Tanina Chadazim, we already learned that one time. The Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, Haisamu Beres if she's pregnant. V'yamru la mativo shalu verzen. We say, what's the status of this child that you're pregnant with? Amru lahem, if she says to them, Meish ploni v'kohenu, that it's from so-and-so is the father and he's a Kohen. Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Eliezer, Omer, Nemenis, Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Eliezer say she is believed. For Rabbi Yoshua, Omer, lo mipianu chayin, and Rabbi Yoshua says, we don't live by her word, we don't live from her mouth. V'yomer Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, and Rabbi Yehuda said that Shmuel said, halacha Rabbi Gamliel, that the halacha is like Rabbi Gamliel again, that we trust the mother. And so again, the question is, why would our Mishnah say the exact same thing? And the Gemara says to that, we need to learn it 2 times. One to say kosher with regards to her, and the other one with regards to saying it's kosher in terms of her daughter. And Rashi explains, the point over here is that Rabbi Gamliel was saying we believe her in terms of herself. We're saying that she is not profaned from having truma. We trust her in terms of herself. She can have truma. But we're not trying to say, according to Rabbi Gamliel, that the child is kosher. That let's say she has a daughter, we're going to say that she shouldn't marry the Kohen. But Abba Shaul takes it a step further. He says even the daughter is kosher. Because the whole point is our Mishnah is talking even about the child. So that first teaching of Rabbi Gamliel is only talking about the mother, the woman herself, and now we're going a step further and applying it to the child as well. And the Gemara continues, this answer works according to the one who says that according to the Manda Amar that says that she is kosher, her daughter is still puzzle, and so therefore that's why we have this additional Mishnah to say, to go a step further and say that the daughter is kosher. But according to the one who says that the one who says she's kosher, automatically the daughter is kosher as well, so therefore Rabbi Gamliel does extend the heter to the daughter, Abba Shaul Mayasal Ashmin, and so what is Abba Shaul coming to teach us in the Mishnah? It's the same as Rabbi Gamliel, and the Gemara says to that, the Abba Shaul Adifa mid Rabbi Gamliel, Abba Shaul is better, he goes further than Rabbi Gamliel as follows, the Imei Hasam have Amina Hasam Derov Kasher, that's because if we only had Rabbi Gamliel, I would say maybe that's true over there, where the majority of men are kosher with regards to her. Aval Hecha Derov Psul, that's La Emalo, but if you have a situation where most are going to be disqualified to her, maybe I would say no, and so therefore Tzricha, that's why Abba Shaul is needed. Amar Rava halacha ka Abba Shaul, and Rava says the halacha is like Abba Shaul. And Rashi explains the maybe what Rabbi Gamliel said is only true if the majority are kosher to her, meaning Kagon Pinuya, let's say she's unmarried, and most of the people in the city are able to marry into the kahuna, so most people are going to be kosher. Let's say you have a situation where most are puzzled to her, Kagon Arusa, let's say she's betrothed, for example, and she says this child is from the Aris, it's from the person who I'm going to be marrying. O Pinuya, or let's say she's unmarried, but let's say most of the city is not able to marry into the kahuna. So in such a situation, again, where the majority is not kosher, I might say we don't believe her, and that's why Abba Shaul says we're still lenient, and that's how Abba Shaul goes a step further. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Kol ha'asurin lavo bekol, anyone who's prohibited from marrying into the congregation, mutarim lavo zeh bazeh, all of those individuals are allowed to marry one another. Rabbi Yehuda Oser, Rabbi Yehuda says that's prohibited. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Rabbi Eliezer says, Vadon bevadon mutter, those who are certainly outside of the community, they can marry one another. But vadon besveikan, but let's say someone who's a certainty with someone who is uncertain, usveikon bevadon, or let's say again an uncertain with a certain, usveikon besveikan, or different uncertain individuals with one another, according to Rabbi Eliezer Oser, that's going to be prohibited. V'elohen asveikos, what are people with uncertain lineage? Shtuke, asufi v'kusi, that refers to shtuki, asufi, and to the kusi. And Rashi explains, Kol ha'asurin lavo bekol mutarin lavo zeh bazeh, anyone who's not allowed to marry into the congregation, they can marry one another, meaning, kagon mamzeri b'shtuki, for example, a mamzer can marry a shtuki, v'afagav shezeh vadai v'zeh safek, even though this one is a certain, he's a mamzer, the other one's uncertain, v'ikol ememar shema kosher, maybe that uncertain one is kosher, afilu achishari, nevertheless it's permitted, k'di alfinan le'el, like we learned earlier, bekal vadai lo yavo, you can't come into the certain congregation, aval bekal safek yavo, but he is able, the mamzer is able to enter into the uncertain community. The Gemara is going to ask, didn't we already learn this in the beginning in the earlier Mishnah? And Rashi continues, Rabbi Yehuda Oser, Rabbi Yehuda says, Oser b'Gemara mefarish law, the Gemara will explain Rabbi Yehuda's position. And Rabbi Eliezer said, or Rabbi Elazar said, Vadon bevadon mutter, if it's a certain with a certain, that's mutter, meaning, kagon mamzeir and binasinim, for example, a mamzer with an asin, those are two people who are certainly outside of the community, they're mutter. But vadon b'sveikon kagon mamzer and asina b'shtuki v'asufi. Let's say a mamzer and an asin with a Shtuki and a Sufi. Shtuki and a Sufi is uncertain lineage, or Sveikon bevadon, or the other way, Shtuki v'asufi b'mamzer nesine, a Shtuki and a Sufi with mamzer nesinim, or Sveikon b'Sveikon, are different kinds of uncertain with one another, Shtuki b'Shtukis, Asufi b'Asufis, Asufi b'Shtukis, all of those cases are usher because there's uncertainty there. Shemazeh kosher v'zeh pasul, because maybe this one is kosher and this one is pasul. The kusi b'gemar mefarish my sveikayo. Now, in terms of a kusi, why is a kusi considered to be a suffix? The Gemara will explain. Who are the kusim? The kusim osam shahoshev sancherev. The kusim are the Samaritans. It's the individuals that Sancherev placed. Ba'orei Shomron, he placed them in the city of Shomron, in the area of Samaria. In other words, Sancherev placed some individuals over there. Those were the kusim. As it's written, Vayavam Melech Ashur, Mikusa, Ve'al Shem Shavim Mikusa, Nikru Kusim, since they came from this place called Kusa, they're called Kusim. V'nisgairu me'emas ha'arayos, there's a story in the Navi, they converted because they were afraid of lions that were attacking. Kedechsev Vayishlach ha'arayos v'gomar, like the Pasuk says, V'chule Inyana b'melachim, this is all melachim. So again, the Gemara will explain why they are considered to be of uncertain status. And the Gemara says, "Ma'ikol asur lavo bekal." What does it mean that anybody who's prohibited from joining into the community can marry one another? Ilema mamzer nesin shtuki v'asufi. If you say that it means the mamzer and the nesin and the shtuki and the sufi, they all can marry one another. Hatana le reisha. That's already said in the beginning. We already said that. Mamzer nesin shtuki v'asufi mutarim lavo zebazeh. We said in the earlier Mishnah that all of these individuals can marry one another. V'suin further, Rabbi Yehuda Oser. It says that Rabbi Yehuda says it's prohibited. So ahaya, what's that going on? Ilema avadon b'sveikon. If you say that he's going on a case of someone who's certain with somebody who's uncertain, hamidaktani seifa, but it already says in the seifa, Rebbe Lozer Omer, that Rebbe Lozer says vadon b'vadon mutter, that those of certain who certainly have bad lineage, it's mutter with one another, and vadon b'sveikon b'sveikon aser, but those who are certain with those who are uncertain, or those who are uncertain with those who are uncertain, it's prohibited. That's what Rabbi Yehuda is saying in the later line in the Mishnah. Mechlal de Rabbi Yehuda lo svirle. Sorry, that's what Rebbe Lozer is saying in the later line in the Mishnah. That sounds like that's Rebbe Lozer's shita. It sounds like that's not Rabbi Yehuda's shita. Rabbi Yehuda is not making the distinction of Vadai and Safik. And the Gemara continues, and if you're going to say Rabbi Yehuda Oser ager b'mamzeres, maybe you'll say that what it means is that Rabbi Yehuda is saying it's prohibited for a ger to marry a mamzeres. Midi ger b'mamzeres katani. Does it say specifically a ger with a mamzeres? It doesn't even say that here. Kol ha'asurin lavo b'kol katani. It says anybody who's prohibited to enter into the community. And Rashi explains, Rabbi Yehuda Oser ager b'mamzeres. Maybe Rabbi Yehuda is saying that a ger is not allowed to marry a mamzeres. The shaminan le damar hachi la'el. The Gemara says, the Rashi explains, because we already said, Rabbi Yehuda said that earlier, that Rabbi Yehuda said a ger with a mamzeres is not allowed. Rabbi Yehuda Omer ger lo yisum mamzeres. Rabbi Yehuda said a ger is not allowed to marry a mamzeres. Again, that was a discussion earlier whether the community of gerim is considered to be the kahal or not. And Rabbi Yehuda said they are part of the kahal, and therefore a ger is not allowed to marry a mamzeres. So we know that that's at least Rabbi Yehuda's shita. And we don't find Rabbi Yehuda having any other shitas when it comes to lineage. But midi ger b'mamzeres katani, but it doesn't say that over here. Le'el da'asi Rabbi Yehuda la'flu ge'el. It doesn't say that line. It doesn't talk about a ger mamzeres, that's what Rabbi Yehuda is addressing. Kol asurin lava b'kol v'ger lav min asurin. It talks about all of those who are prohibited from entering the community. That's not a ger. A ger is not someone who's prohibited, and therefore it can't be that that's what Rabbi Yehuda is saying. And the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yehuda says, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ayin Dalid Amud Beis.